Hello everyone, it's Chef Jazzy John. We are back. Happy New Year to everyone first of all. I hope everyone has had a great holiday and hope everyone will have a prosperous and wonderful New Year. So on this cold and blustery day in Chicago, the temperature is below zero. I think I picked the perfect recipe for today. I'm going to be preparing French onion soup, a classic, heartwarming, stomach-warming soup. So as normal, let's get right into it. I have all the ingredients measured out for you guys. So first of all, you have to have onions. You need 6 cups of onions, which can be anywhere from 4 to 6 onions. And so you're gonna slice them real nice and thin. So that way you have lots of onions. Okay, so next, I was gonna slice one in front of you guys, but I went on and sliced them all up. I got real happy. So next, we're gonna have 1 tablespoon of cooking oil, just nice vegetable oil. Then we have 2 tablespoons of butter. Then I have a half a teaspoon of sugar and a half a teaspoon of sage. And then I have 1 teaspoon of salt. And I have 3 tablespoons of flour. That's gonna be for our stock. And then I have 6 cups of beef broth. And I have 1 cup of dry red wine, and today I'm going to use a Cabernet, which is a nice dry wine. Then I have approximately 1 cup of Gruyere cheese, but you can also use Swiss, you could use Parmesan, whatever you like. You could even use mozzarella cheese. Gruyere is basically the traditional cheese for this particular dish. So it came like this, but I just used my shredder. Okay, and then I have 1 bay leaf. So our next step will be to move everything to the stove because everything is basically done at the stove. So let's move on to step number 2. So we are at the stove. So our first step will be to add the chicken broth. Here's 6 cups of chicken broth to a pan. So you have to have 2 separate pots. Make sure you know that. So we're gonna let this heat up until it comes to a simmer. And then our other pot, we're gonna add in our onions. I'm gonna put it on a medium heat. So we're going to add in our onions. Our 4 to 6 cups of onions. I should say our 5 cups of onion, which is 4 to 6 onions. So we're going to get that started. And we're going to add in our 2 tablespoons of butter. And our 1 tablespoon of oil. So we're going to start and stir these around really well until we get all this coated with the oil and the butter. So it's going to take a few minutes. So that's going to be our first step. So once you get your onions and your butter in, actually I could have put the oil and the butter in first and let it melt. But either way it's going to go, you're going to keep stirring this until it's all coated. And then we're going to put the cover on it. I'm gonna let them cook down till they get translucent and tender. And translucent, you can kind of be able to see through them. And this recipe takes a little while, but it's worth every moment. So the butter is starting to melt. So now you can see that the onions are pretty well coated with the butter and the oil. I'm going to stir them one more good time, and I'm going to put a lid on this and just let them simmer for a few minutes, maybe about 10 minutes. And over here we have our beef broth, which is just kind of still simmering. It hasn't quite started to simmer yet. So that's going to be our next step. So let's check on our onions. So this is something that you will be checking on every 4 or 5 minutes. To make sure that they're not sticking anything, and to make sure that you keep distributing that oil and butter evenly over these onions. Okay, they are smelling. I wish we had smell-o-vision because they are smelling absolutely wonderful. I'll put the lid back on, so we got maybe about another 10 minutes for that. So basically it's going to take you 15 to 20 minutes to actually get the onions proper. As you see, my beef broth is starting to simmer. You can see the little steam coming from it. So in the meantime, while that's working, we're going to prepare our bread or toast. Now if you're going to just use croutons, you don't have to do this. But I actually had some French baguette bread or any kind of little French bread. So we're gonna spray both sides with olive oil. Both sides. We're gonna just flip them over. And these are just little small pieces of bread, crispy bread. Oh boy, I need some more olive oil. Okay. So now we're gonna put these. So I'm only gonna make 2 cups because it's just me and my wife this evening. So I just have these, I think I have 6 of them. So I'm gonna put these in the oven. I'm gonna put them in there for 15 minutes per side. I'm gonna put them in the oven. So we're gonna count for 15 minutes. Okay, it's 10 after, so 15 minutes, and I'm gonna flip them back, flip them over. So let's check on this one more time. As you can see, they are translucent now. They're nice and shiny, they're soft. They've cooked down quite a bit. Okay. Give me about another few minutes. So at this point, I'm gonna take the top off one more time. So now this is when we're gonna add in our sugar and our salt. And the sugar is actually what's gonna caramelize them and make them start to turn brown. The salt is gonna just give them some nice flavor. So we're gonna just continue to stir this around. So now we should be able to start seeing them to caramelize and get brown. Okay. That's a very important step. Please don't forget your sugar and your salt. Okay, so put the top back on for another couple minutes. So at this point, I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit more to a medium high. So that would also help it start to brown. But now we know that they're totally coated with the sugar and the salt. So we just let them just kind of simmer there for a minute. And you see our beef broth is still just simmering over here. It's doing great. So now they've been cooking about 15-20 minutes. And you see the caramelization. When you say caramelized onions, you actually want them to start to turn a nice golden brown. Hope you guys can see that. So now at this point, and they're not going to be sticking, even though you might see a little residue in the bottom of the skillet or the pot, that's fine. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to turn it down a little bit. Turn it back down to like a medium. So I'm going to add in the flour, my 3 tablespoons of flour. So I kind of brush it over, kind of sprinkle it all over. And then we're going to just make sure this is all stirred in very, very well. Okay, so I'm going to put all of it in there. That's my 3 tablespoons of flour. Okay, and that acts as a thickener or like a roux. Okay, so now they're caramelized, they're nice and thick. So now I'm going to turn it down a little bit. So at this point, I'm going to start to add some of the hot beef stock in there. Just a little bit closer. I'm going to just put about a cup of beef stock in, a couple dips of beef stock. And then I'm going to just continue stirring it around until it's nice and blended. There we go. That's what's going to make a nice thickness to your onion soup. Okay, so now I'm going to probably add a couple more. I'll do 2 more. Okay. And we're going to get that all nice and distributed. Oh yeah, that's beautiful. So now at this point, so make sure that it's really distributed well. You don't want any lumps, floury lumps in your French onion soup. So now we're gonna just take the rest of the 6 cups and just pour it all in there. Let me turn it this way so you guys can see. Okay, we turn it up. So now we're gonna just continue to stir this around really nice. I'm gonna turn up the heat back up some. So at this point, I'm gonna put in my sage, my half a teaspoon of sage, and I'm gonna add in my 1 bay leaf. I'm gonna just stir that around for a minute. So at this point, I have everything in the pot. So now I'm gonna add in my 1 cup of red wine. And that's what's gonna give it that beautiful, rich color. And don't forget that you have your bread cooking in the oven. I'll let you guys see. Nice, beautiful color. So now I'm gonna just turn it down like on a medium heat, and we're gonna let this simmer for about 30 minutes. So I'll be back and we can take it from there. Okay guys, so we are back. The French onion soup is smelling wonderful. It is looking wonderful. I let it cook down a little bit for about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. Make sure you guys can see. So now I have some oven-proof bowls. Make sure you please use oven-proof bowls or containers or ramekins or whatever you have. Just make sure that they're oven-proof. So now we're gonna dip this wonderful goodness. Oh, and also, while I was cooking, something I forgot to tell you guys is to make sure you add some salt and pepper. I actually even added a little garlic powder. So it's salt and pepper and garlic powder to mine. So you're gonna just dip those in there. Oh, this is smelling so wonderful. It's gonna be such a great dinner. Okay, so I'm gonna put all that in there. So now I'm gonna actually add a little cheese in it, just so they can kind of start melting in there. Like I said, this is just for 2 people, so if you're gonna do more, you can still follow the recipe, but I'm only just making a little bit for us today. Okay, so now I'm gonna just top that with a little bit more. Oh my God, this is gonna be so wonderful. Okay, so now we have that. And we're gonna put our bread on. So just like I get the small baguettes, so I can get 3 on top. Perfect fit. And we're gonna put that on top of there. So now you're gonna put this back in the oven for about another 20 minutes. So all that good cheese can get all down there. So now when you put your final cheese on top, make sure that your bread is all covered, because you don't want your bread to burn. You can just load as much cheese on there as you want. And remember, this is Gruyere cheese. This is traditional cheese, but you can add other types of cheeses. And just make sure that you have this cheese distributed all over. Make sure all your bread is covered. Remember, it's going to melt down and just be all gooey and cheesy and wonderful. Okay. So this is about a cup of cheese that I had for both of these. If you want more cheese, feel free to add some more cheese. As a matter of fact, I have some Parmesan cheese that I'm going to add. Some of the body right here. So I'm going to even add a little second flavor to it. I'm going to add a little Parmesan to it. And this is shredded as well. A little more finer shredded. But it'll just give it another little extra flavor, a little extra texture. Make sure I get all of it covered very, very well. Hope you guys can see really well what I'm doing here. So it's easier just to set it on a rack. That way, you know, this bowl is pretty hot, so you don't want to pick up this hot bowl. I love cheese. Okay, so now we're gonna just, let me get a paper towel and wipe some of this off so I won't make such a mess. Okay, so we're gonna just wipe this off. The cheese already melting on there. So we're gonna just put this in the oven for about 30 minutes, 20 minutes. I'm gonna say 20 to 30 minutes. I'm gonna keep check on it to make sure that it's looking like I want it to be. So there you have it. Whew. French onion soup, home from homemade. Put it right there. Okay, I'll check back with you guys in another 20 minutes and we'll be ready to eat. So we are back. Our masterpiece is done. Of course, this is really hot, but it's beautiful. I actually added a little bit more cheese on top because I love cheese. So I'm gonna let this cool off a little bit. I'm gonna put what I have left, put it up so I can have some tomorrow. So hopefully you guys can see this really, really well now. Okay, let's put it in the bowl. Move my glass of wine. So you see it's nice and rich and thick. At the end, don't forget to take out your bay leaf. I'll just put it right there. But you can put this in the fridge and save it for a few days. You can even put it in a baggie and put it in the freezer if you like. Because as you always know, I always say it's just me and my wife, so we always have lots of leftovers. I'm gonna sit this over here. The smell is amazing. Perfect fit. You can have this with a nice sandwich. You just eat it by itself. Once again, I want you to make sure you can see. It's a nice, rich, dark color. The smell is just so amazing. So this is lunch for tomorrow. I can have it with a nice sandwich. Maybe a nice tuna sandwich or something like that. With my mess. So, you know this is really hot. So I have me a nice cold glass of wine. So, let's taste. And I asked you to decide to make me some extra little bread on the side. So if you want, you can have your croutons on the side if you like. But it's very rich. It's gooey, it's ooey. Oh my God, I can't wait to taste this. Okay. Oh my God. As the young people say, OMG. Have the cheese in it. You can see it's bubbling. It's nice texture. It's just wonderful. So, from Chef John, bon appetit. Happy New Year. Thank you all so much.